Hello, everybody. It is our Friday update on Thursday. I figured you wouldn't mind getting this a little bit early, and I'll go over the rest of the course. That sounds crazy to say. For tonight, of course, is the Razzle Dazzle. I want you to think about whatever it is. And see, you can do this even when your paper's not done, right? If you know that there's a couple ideas that you like and that's going to be a part of it, I want you to think about how best can you show that besides it was interesting that I found this. You know what I mean? Something you use from the list. And of course, if between now and next week you change that, I'm not going to go back and say, you said it was going to be a picture, but now you're asking questions. They're both on the list. That works. Now, I've read everybody's paper, given everybody feedback, and though sometimes it might take a little bit before you get feedback, it won't be instantaneous. You can absolutely, as you're making changes, put your paper in here, right? Where, hey, Steve, I want you to look at it one more time or two more times, right? Before the due date. So next week on Monday is when you'll do your presentation. So let's talk about your presentation. I have the presentation first because you can do, I think it will be easiest to do the presentation, which is covering your main ideas, which you should, you have, even if I'm asking you to make big changes. And then you can finish up your paper because I think the paper should be the bigger project, right? So I put that last. In your presentation, your research question, right? I wanted to find out um, relevant background information, right? Think about, okay, I'm a teacher, you're all college students. We probably know some basics about stuff, but what is it about the background that we need to know to really understand what makes your topic, right, complicated, right, complex? Maybe there's something about groups we never would have thought would have even been involved in this. Um, your research experience. This is very different than what did you find, right? This is like, what was it like? And I've got an example coming up shortly. What you found in your research. Now, what I don't want you to do is tell us the entire paper, right? So it's not, I'm going to give you everything I did. No, pick out what you think is most interesting, right? So basically, you're not going to retell us your whole paper, right? What you're going to do is say, here's my question. I was looking for this. Here's a key factor too you need to know about this topic. As I did the research, here's what I learned about research. Here's something I learned about research, right? And you know what? A couple, not all, a couple of the interesting things I found were this. And ultimately, I came to the conclusion, okay, 2 razzle dazzles minimum, 4 maximum. Now there's a handout, and I actually asked Ian if I could use his because I think he did a really good job on it. So you can see an example, right? Now when you think about key terms, you you don't want to give us a term like a key term is prison. Prison is where they lock up people, right? I mean, we know that, right? So you want to think about, hey, intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, right? We all probably know what motivation is, right? But intrinsic, what's that? And this totally relates to grading. So, right, Zipf distribution, you know, most of us, if not all of us, don't know what the heck that was. I'm a teacher and I didn't know what the heck that was. So what are the key terms that people need to understand for your topic, right? Then he's got the razzle dazzle. Now this, so I've got a video. What are the top 3 pieces of background information? And you'll notice these are full sentences. It's not just like a phrase, right? Full sentences. And how these presentation handouts will be used are 2 ways. One, I'm going to ask you to actually post it with your presentation. That way, if somebody really likes your topic, they can see who your sources are. They can have this shorthand information, right? And so they got it. And this frees you up. If you know everybody can read the top 3 pieces of information, you don't have to give all top 3 pieces of information, right? You give them the one that you think is most interesting, gets people's attention, and you use that one. And they can go find out other things. And then, of course, I'll use it and grade the handout because it's a part of the presentation. So put it in the discussion, put it in the Dropbox I have for the handout. Now, right, what are your sources? Now, when Ian's doing this, and I'll say a little bit more later, he doesn't have to go through, here's all my sources, right? If one of these was really good, or it was hard to find, or it happened through some sort of lucky thing, then he might want to share it, right? And so this is the part, and I love this one because it's so true and frustrating. Look at this. After hours of research without finding any sources, one keyword can unlock an overwhelming supply of information. That is so true. Remember, you can do Zoom calls. I had a Zoom call with another student who had a topic that should have had a ton of things popping up and ended up searching for ebooks instead of everywhere. And so only a couple things came up. And it was one of those things that when we talked about it, boom, all of a sudden there was a plethora of sources. The one thing we can do on a Zoom conference, which is actually pretty cool, is I can share screen. So if we're talking and say you're having a hard time finding something, I can actually pull up the Century College database or, Google or whatever and walk you through a search, right, and show you it's done. So if there's like a particular area, you're like, Steve, I haven't found anything. These are the search words I've tried. Can we have a Zoom conference? I'll be like, heck yeah. Okay, so that's an example of the handout. And one of the things too, now that I've read everybody's, a few people, right, are, and this is understandable, more in a persuasive mode than an informative mode. And I really want everybody to be exploring the different views. And think about Jonathan Haidt. He talked about conservatives, liberals, and libertarians, for example. And while he was trying to, let people know that those groups should listen to each other, he never said liberals shouldn't be liberal, conservatives shouldn't be conservative, right? Libertarians shouldn't be libertarians. He said, this is what they think, this is what they value, and here's how it shows up. So those are the kind of things I want you to think about, the different people involved. So if it's something like invasive species, right? Like we got our lakes that are being taken over with milfoil and all this other stuff, which I'm learning through a paper. What the hell is wrong with Minnesota fishermen? Right? What's going on that, right? We've got signs up. We know this down. We have an economy, a huge tourist economy built on lakes. And there are plenty of us who are like, so what? And we are helping to degrade Minnesota. What's going on there? How is this tied into what people think of the DNR? How people follow rules? Are there fishing groups that are supportive in pushing this? Are there ones that are not? Right? Those kind of things. Or we could jump to education. And Ian has a ton of good things about how our current system doesn't actually bring out the best in a lot of ways. But what I'm asking him to look into, right, in this feedback is, so what's going on? What are the teacher unions doing about this? What are the universities doing about this? What about the testing centers? Do you think the people who make millions and millions of dollars on the ACT want grades to disappear? Probably not, right? Minnesota has a scorecard for every state-run school that you can go check out, right? That looks at graduation rates and other things. There's a ton of people invested in the current system. And I want to get those different perspectives is why, for example, if we know our lakes are being ruined, maybe ruined is a strong word, but probably not for some. If we know our lakes are being damaged, right? And we're not doing much about it, what's going on? Don't prove us that we should do something about it, because a smart person will go, oh man, that's bad for the lakes. We should do something about it. Show what gets in the way, right? And if we know that our current grading system, causes stress and in many ways is ineffective, and, once you get out of college, nobody's going to ask you what your grade point is. What the hell's going on that we have this system? Why do we keep a system that has all of these flaws, right? And then, ooh, yeah, there's another awesome one about congenital heart disease, right? And right now, a lot of stuff on here's what's going into it, but I want to know how, think about it this way. if you have, in one sense, been like, here's the factual reporting of everything that I could find about the topic, that would make sense to be probably a third of your paper, right? Because then it goes into how are other people using these facts. So congenital heart disease, a part of it is genetics, right? So are people who want to, right, splice our DNA, make better people, are they using this as an example, right, of a reason why, hey, you know what, if you just let us go nuts with this splicing, we could get rid of these things and help all these babies out, right? Are they involved in some way, right? There's a small percentage, right, if I've remembering all the details right, about different drugs and diet even that goes into when a woman is pregnant that could affect having a heart disease, right? Is anybody saying this about those diets? Is the government pushing people to say, hey, you should do this? Is maybe the medical field, or is nobody? Is this because, God damn it, we're free and we'll do whatever we want? Give me a cigarette. I want people to look at, yep, here's the facts that I found. Human beings are not in any real way, right, computers where you like put in facts and then they read the facts based on these charts and then give you your answer. No, we are emotional beings, which we make our decisions and then we rationalize them later, right? So, and sometimes that later could be half a second, right? But we'll literally go like, I hate that person. Why do I hate that person? Okay, now I got 3 reasons, right? Where I was just this visceral no. So I want you to be thinking about how us crazy humans who love our groups look at your topic, right? I think that does it. Send me an email if you want to have a Zoom conference. Just know I need a little bit of lead time typically to set these things up, but I will work with you as best as I can. It's puppy weekend, which means I'm busy, and I will do my best to check in over this weekend. But as anybody with children or pets knows, sometimes if something's crapping on your carpet, you sometimes get distracted. So I'll do my best to check in. But for sure, Friday noon, when I finish up my other classes, I will be checking my email and to make sure that I answer everything before I go on to what's next, right? So today's Thursday. If you've got any questions tonight, right, make sure get them to me by Friday noon, and I'll make sure that those are answered. And then after that, it's gonna, for sure on Monday I'll be doing things. The weekend will be definitely sporadic, right? Okay. For those of you who are going, hey, Steve, I did all this work, I have this ton of facts, and now you want me to change a bunch of part of it? Yes. And that work you did mattered. I mean, you are now so much more informed and have this stuff. And throughout the book, we've been looking at different perspectives, right? And that is a key thing that I want you to do, because coming into this class, I knew, pretty much everybody here could write a solid persuasive paper, right? Here's why it's a good idea. What we don't have enough training on is to expand our perspective and take something where we might think, oh, isn't it just obvious that it's this? And it's like, no, right? Everything from different Christian denominations look at, homosexuality different to, the medical field is influenced besides so many things besides just what's healthy for people. All of these things that we are talking about, even fishing, right, is shaped by different groups of humans with our belief systems that are built on all kinds of things. Sometimes sound good advice, sometimes, right, just stuff we believe because it makes us look good, right? So wrapping up, send me any questions you have before noon on Friday. They will get answered on Friday. Weekend I'll do my best, and then of course I'll be back on the full-time job Monday. And if you send any questions during the weekend that I haven't got to, I will be answering them on Monday. Have a good, productive weekend. And this is it. This is the last weekend I am going to ask you to do work, right? Unless you take another class with me in the future. All right. Have a good one.